You built you a house of wood. Yeah. Like a giant hand can gale winds from the north.
Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with New Mexico-based jazz musician, record producer, and DJ Miles Bonny. We caught up with Miles on March 6, 2020 during the COVID-19 quarantine to discuss his life and music. He is the product of a family focused on human support and music. He has great Kansas City roots. His story is rich and complex. And enjoy.
Hey, thanks for taking a minute out. How's everything holding up where you're at?
Pretty good, yep. Keeping things rolling.
Talk to me a little bit about what you've been doing during this quarantine to kind of keep yourself creatively satiated.
Fortunately, I guess my life hasn't really changed at all during the quarantine. Living in an area now in northern New Mexico where there's a lot of open space and not many people, there aren't the restrictions placed on folks, it sounds like, in larger cities where there's more density. So I'm continuing to work on music in my studio. I guess the only thing that's really dropped are the live shows, but truth be told, I only really do live shows to either get to travel and meet people or to add to my community if I'm DJing, or lately out here I've been curating local artist showcases to kind of build up the scene. So I guess in short, the live things have gone away. Haven't really transitioned into online streaming yet, but you know, I've a lot of other things, community work and family and things. So I've been staying busy.
So talk to me about your beginnings in music, where you were born and raised, and kind of how you got to where you're at today.
Sure. Well, both of my parents knew each other from a young age in the Midwest. They were both children of ministers in Missouri and Kansas, and both of their mothers actually had the same first and middle name, Helen Louise. So there was a couple different events that brought their families together when they were younger. They ended up getting married, and my father attended the Manhattan School of Music in New York, so he went out there to do that, and in doing so started playing in jazz and Latin bands around New York City, and my mom was out there with him. And after doing some touring with bands like Tommy Dorsey and playing with Buddy Rich and stuff like that, he settled in and started playing Broadway shows, and eventually became one of the first members of the Phantom of the Opera Orchestra in New York. And then, so I pretty much grew up all around all that. My holidays, such as Easter and things, were always connected to other brass players and their houses and their families and get-togethers. And I would, follow them to a lot of gigs. And then, outside of that musical influence, I grew up around, late 80s and mainly 90s independent hip-hop culture around New York City, which was, also often jazz influenced and kind of funky. And I think over time I've just kind of combined the two because those are the styles of music I heard most. I didn't really know much about, popular rock bands and things, even like Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, till I moved to Kansas, honestly, because my parents just didn't listen to it. And I don't know, I was just so wrapped up in, I guess, what they were up to.
Talk to me a little bit about your Midwestern roots and how that's influenced the way that you've approached your music.
Yeah, I mean, moving to the Midwest was huge because when I was in high school in New Jersey, before I moved to Lawrence, Kansas to attend KU, I hadn't really had much of a history of creating my own music, aside from being in jazz band and marching band and all that kind of stuff that I could do in high school. I did have some good experiences early, but really as far as creating my own music, moving to Lawrence, being in college, meeting other people that became my friends and contemporaries, I guess, such as this guy named Jeremy Nesbitt, who now lives in San Francisco, and another guy that goes by Johnny Quest, who's still in Lawrence, and eventually Brandon Draper, and Reggie B., who was in Topeka at the time as a vocalist and piano player, and then Eddie Moore, all these people over the years, and of course Joe Good and all the hip hop sounds good stuff we did. and his mom Nisha. It was all connected to the history of Kansas City jazz. You know, Joe Good's mom, Nisha Gamby, lives on 39th Street. She's a wonderful massage therapist, and also her mother, Sandra Brown, was a pianist and singer. So not only did I love learning about the history of jazz and you know, Black American music in Kansas City, but also just connecting with the scene and having UMKC there and all the great jazz players, and kind of, you know, finding my middle ground between the worlds that I'm a part of, but not, you know, ever really considering myself a hardcore jazz player. I never really, you know, practiced scales since high school or anything. And I think I liked having the degree of musicianship that existed in Kansas City and still exists now. And even from afar, I still love to pay attention to Marcos Lewis's big band, and the stuff they're doing now virtually online is amazing to me. And I was just grateful to, you know, find my little, again, like I said, little niche, little middle ground between all the various styles that existed, and learn from those I was surrounded by.
What do you like best about being a performer, being a musician?
I like recording best. I'm a huge fan, for whatever reason, of audio recordings. I was having discussion with my wife about how on, you know, Facebook and things, there are these you know, requests from friends to post your top 10 favorite albums, and we're discussing how she's listened more to single songs and to best ofs than she has albums, and I'm more of an album fan. And what I said kind of was a little mini realization to me, which is that I don't mind hearing the bad songs. You know, I like kind of the humanity of music as a creator or as a fan, and in listening to an album by someone else, whether it's their best or worst, I think there's always something to learn from it. I'm a huge fan of context, so I love hearing the sounds that it's surrounded by and reading the liner notes and knowing who's there. So as a result, I love creating my own recordings because it's kind of audio art. You know, I grew up going to a lot of art museums, and I think I always feel a connection between recorded music and visual art and parallel the two. As far as live, you know, it's always cool to travel and see new places and meet new people and kind of test yourself to show up somewhere and see what happens. Wherever I live, I tend to like to DJ more than do any vocal work. And I think that's really a result of maybe me being a little embarrassed to sing songs I just happen to make up in my room some night and have to continue to repeat them. But also I like to celebrate recorded music in all its forms and genres, and I think that's where the DJing comes in, and hopefully create a good party and event where everybody's having a good time and exploring their own diverse interests musically.
So why do you love jazz?
I'm a big fan of improvisation. I'm a big fan of the ways in which musicians listen to each other on the bandstand in a live setting. And I think that it just equates freedom to me. I think that I like the spontaneity. I'm a huge fan of challenging big band sounds. A really influential recording for me in high school was, I don't want to look it up, but I want to say it was the Joe Henderson big band album that won a Grammy at the time. Yes. Just amazing. If anybody's interested, check out the Joe Henderson big band album. It looks like it came out in 2000. Well, I don't know when it came out, 97. Stuff like that, stuff like Buddy Rich. I was watching Buddy Rich videos of him on Carson, and just the ferocity with which he attacked the arrangements and had to have everybody keep up is just very exciting to me.
What was the first live show that you saw that really made you think, man, this is something I want to do with my life?
Ooh, that's a hard one, because I grew up as a kid before I would have been allowed to go to a venue or anything, just following my dad around. So I think moments like that stick out to me are going to Riverside Church in Harlem in New York, and my dad just hearing not even him, but just, you know, the organ and the really quality choir reverberating in this very large stone space. Similarly, other chapels and churches on Easters where he'd be playing a trumpet concerto or something. I still don't even know what most of those things are. And just hearing how again, the relationship between the sound, his tone, and the space, and just how it feels, is very, I think, like the closest to religion that I feel personally. I did see at the Voodoo Lounge in Kansas City later in life. I saw Raphael Sadiq, a guitarist and composer and singer, sing, and then I was like, oh, this is what I got to do, even though I was already singing. But at the same time, I think I've chosen to work outside of music because, in addition to creating music, because I don't necessarily love the grind aspect that it sometimes takes to have a career in music. I'm not that interested in playing out late often or learning other people's charts or whatever. So I've kind of enjoyed keeping it as a strong hobby.
So, we're going to come out of this COVID-19 quarantine, and we're going to get back to live music. So I want to know from you, what do you hope both musician and audience member realizes from this time away?
I think that what I'd hope they realize, or what I'm realizing, is that it's a really beautiful thing to be around other people in person and having the opportunity to witness someone perform and share what they do for you and with you. Because of going to classical events and things, even though being quiet during a performance and only, walking out during intermissions or in between songs is not always the most fun, I do think there's something kind of special and thoughtful about honoring those who are sharing what they want to create and share with you in front of you. And maybe moving forward, it'd be great if that's celebrated. It's actually really interesting as I think about that also, because I think that with the advent of the internet and videos being so readily available on your phone and anywhere, kind of took away from people's appreciation of live performance. And as a result of this, perhaps only being having access to live or recorded performance on the internet will help people develop a new appreciation for being in a space with performers and being able to enjoy that.
So my final question to you is this. Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're the one living your life. Who do you think you are?
I'm a huge fan of perspective in that way, and I still don't know exactly, but I'm happy that with respect to music in the Midwest that I was able to collaborate with so many different people, whether it's restaurateurs and, cocktail artists to musicians and venue owners. And I think collaboration and community is something that's very important to me, and it stretches between my day work on community health issues as well as my music, and it really opens up tons of doors. So I guess I'm someone who loves to learn what I want to share with the world, and we learn together what that becomes. And I love to collaborate with others so that we can just make what could be possible.
Right on, man. Miles, it's been a while. I've been really wanting to catch up with you for some time, so I'm glad that we had the chance to kind of figure this out and get in here during a very surreal time. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks so much. And thanks for your flexibility, and I appreciate you questions.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in New Mexico, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Miles for his time, music, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Do that for you. Said I build you a house of wood. Girl, you know that it's so good.
Neon Jazz.